Morning freeze dryers, we are still here in Canada. This is our second video in Canada. I want to show you an easy throw together breakfast item that we can do. That can be a meal in a jar. It can also be a pantry item, ingredient type recipe. And here we go. Our freeze-dried breakfast burrito in a jar will have all of the usual suspects that you would expect in a regular breakfast burrito. So we're gonna have diced onions, we're gonna have mushrooms, we're gonna have peppers. I'm also gonna throw some diced kale in mine, as well as some cubed potatoes, some sausage crumbles, and last but not least, some egg powder. If you have not seen the egg powder video that I made a couple weeks ago, make sure you check that one out. That'll give you the proper way to make the best egg powder that you can possibly get, so you don't get any kind of funky textures or funky off flavors or anything like that. So I will put a card right here for that video and also down in the description of this video. Let's get started on our breakfast burrito in a jar. We're gonna make this in the XL today, so I'm gonna go ahead and start my machine because it does take a little bit for it to get cold. I'm gonna try and pre-freeze some of the ingredients, some of the more stubborn ingredients. I'm gonna start on medium trays or containers or whatever, transfer onto the XL trays. So I'll pull some trays out of my massive XL stack and let's get started. First ingredient we're gonna do are some potato cubes. I'm just doing some store-bought potato cubes. You're more than welcome to do fresh potatoes. You might want to blanch them just real quick before you try and freeze dry them. They usually turn out better. I'm doing 3 bags. These are 32 ounce or 2 pound bags of potatoes. So I'm gonna put 6 pounds of cubed potatoes on an XL tray. Next we're gonna do some chopped kale. And for that we're gonna pull some fresh out of the garden. Usually I do kale and I'll dice it up and then throw it into a blender and almost make a kale paste and then freeze dry it that way, because I like the way it turns out better. You get little tiny flakes, and those are good for adding to smoothies or whatever. For this recipe, I think that it might actually be better to have the bigger chunks when it's rehydrated. See if we can squeeze this under the racks. Next we're gonna do onions and peppers, and I'm actually just gonna take the seeds and the rind out of these peppers and run them through the food processor, just pulse them real quick. See if that helps, and that will save us from cutting up a whole lot of peppers. That worked pretty well. Well, that worked so well with the peppers, I went ahead and did it with the onions as well. I did the onions a little bit, I diced them a little bit more thin. And I think both of these are just gonna do awesome. So just for context, I know that everyone knows that the XL freeze dryer is big. This is actually an entire bag of onions. So it's less than half the tray. This was about 4 bell peppers of large bell peppers, and then I think about 2 bags of the smaller bell peppers. And another thing you could put in here that I'm not including in today's recipe are some jalapenos. I think those would actually add a lot if you like some spicy burritos. A couple more things you might want to consider adding into this mix. Some salsa. I have a great salsa recipe, have a video on that. I can put that down in the description as well. Another thing that would be good is cheese as a topper. I'm not doing cheese today, but it could definitely be added into it. Last 3 ingredients, we need some sliced mushrooms, we need some cooked sausage crumbles, and then the last thing you need is some egg powder. If you haven't checked out that egg video, please do so. We've learned a whole lot since the last time I've put out an egg video. Basically, the information that I put out in that video is the newest information that we didn't have 4 or 5 years ago. Next, we want to cook up some sausage. I'm actually doing chorizo, which is a spicy sausage, and I'm going to do some plain sausage or just a regular breakfast type sausage also. You want it to be in crumbles, you want it to be cooked, and then once it's cooked, I like to render off as much fat as I can. You can rinse the sausage, or you can do what I'm doing, which is going onto a paper towel plate, and then it will just soak up a lot of that extra grease. You can see how much is coming off already just sitting here. So I'm actually going onto a medium tray even though we are freeze drying in the XL, because I'm trying to get some of this prepared ahead of time before I actually do the whole cycle. So I'm gonna pre-freeze this on a medium tray, and with the parchment paper, most foods will just peel right off even if they're frozen, and then we can just transfer them onto the XL tray. And then I'm gonna do that same thing with some sliced button mushrooms. So when you make this recipe, you can decide whether you want sliced or more finely chopped mushrooms, whether you want them cooked or whether you want to freeze dry them raw. They will cook some once you rehydrate and then when you cook the scramble. Our breakfast burrito in a jar is going now. This recipe, along with over 300 other recipes, can be found at Freeze Drying Cookbook. We're adding lots of meal in a jar and pantry type ingredient recipes to that site. You can also find our freeze drying handbook and our first 100 freeze drying recipes with our Freeze Drying Cookbook hard copy. Those can be found in our store, freezedryingsupplies.com, or you can purchase them on Amazon. We're freeze drying with Harvest Right freeze dryers today. That's what we started with 5 years ago, freeze drying. If you're curious about Harvest Right's freeze dryers, you can get pricing and specs and all the information and everything. You could just follow our link down in the description. That is actually an affiliate link, so if you purchase using our affiliate link, it greatly benefits this channel and it greatly benefits the freeze drying community. One of those benefits being our Facebook and our MeWe group. Those are our two social media groups. It's Retired at 40's freeze drying group, and we do giveaways in those groups. There's an unlimited supply of information in there. You can also use the search function magnifying glass and search threads and keywords and members and everything like that. Those groups have grown to an extraordinary amount of people, and they just continue to keep growing, and we are so thankful for all of the knowledge that is provided on those groups from all of our awesome members. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel Live Life Simple if you've not done that already, and if you like the content we're providing, let us know, let YouTube know by giving us a thumbs up. Well, if pre-freezing those couple trays is any indicator of future performance on pre-freezing in the XL, that made a huge difference. So that was only 28 hours. I fully expected this to be well over 40 if it wouldn't have been pre-frozen. So it's definitely shaving off 10, 12, maybe even more hours than that. Let's make sure that everything is freeze dried and all of the trays were warm and our millitors were down in the hundreds. So definitely all freeze dried. So quick shot of the potatoes, kale, onions, peppers, mushrooms, chorizo and sausage, and some more kale. We're gonna bag all of this. We're gonna rehydrate somewhere beautiful, get a rehydration method, and get you a meal in a jar recipe. Our rehydration for the breakfast burrito is gonna be very simple. I'm gonna go into a jar. You could also go into a bag if you needed to. A jar is probably gonna work a lot better. You also want to layer it in the order that I am layering it. We're gonna do sausage crumbles first. And that will be 2 tablespoons of sausage crumbles. This is gonna be a 2-serving breakfast burrito. If you need more servings than that, you can definitely fit more into a quart-sized jar, so just kind of adjust from there. We're gonna follow that up with 1/4 cup of potato cubes. These are raw, they have been blanched, so make sure that you have blanched your potatoes or that you have at least cooked them a little bit. The hot water that we rehydrate with will help quite a bit, and then we'll actually cook the egg and the whole mixture together, which will cook them some more. But if your potato dices are too big, they may not get all the way cooked, so keep that in mind. And then next up is our kale slices, and then we'll do 1/4 cup of our red or other color bell peppers. And then an optional is a little jalapeno, which I'm gonna do as well. And then 1/4 cup of mushrooms, 2 tablespoons of onions, and then 1/4 cup of our egg powder. And then 2 more optional ingredients. I'm gonna do 1/4 cup of cheese. You can also do salsa. Our jalapenos were another option. Just kind of depends on what you want in your breakfast burrito. Then we're gonna add 1 cup of hot water to this. We'll give it lots and lots of shaking. Let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes is probably enough. You want to make sure that those potatoes are getting soft, and you want to make sure that everything is about at least 80 to 90% rehydrated before we actually put it into the pan to cook. You're gonna cook this up like you would any scramble. You're gonna add it to a tortilla, add some salsa. If you're doing so, you could also do guacamole or something like that. You're gonna fold it up into a burrito, and it's ready to eat. Easy and quick. All the ingredients rehydrate really well. Time to hit the lake, catch some dinner. Remember to live life simple. Catch you next week.